David Chen stared at his computer screen, his tired eyes burning from hours of work. The clock on his desk showed 11:45 p.m., but he couldn't stop now. His criminology homework was different tonight. Something wasn't adding up in the missing persons cases he was studying. "This can't be right," he mumbled, taking another sip of his cold coffee. The cases seemed random at first, people disappearing from different parts of the city. But as he plotted them on the map for his assignment, a pattern emerged. Every person had vanished on nights with a full moon. David wasn't the type to believe in weird stuff. At 22 years old, studying criminology at the city college, he preferred facts and evidence. But these disappearances formed a perfect circle when connected on the map. His professor had given the class these cases to study patterns, but David doubted anyone else had noticed this. He opened another file, his fingers moving fast across the keyboard. Each missing person had reported seeing strange blue lights before they disappeared. The police had dismissed it as stress or imagination. But all of them. That was too much of a coincidence. The room suddenly felt cold. David looked up from his computer and noticed his window was still closed. Strange. He reached for his coffee cup, but his hand froze midway. The liquid inside was vibrating, creating tiny ripples like something from a dinosaur movie. A soft blue glow filled his small apartment bedroom. At first, he thought it was his computer screen, but this light was different. It danced across the walls like the northern lights he'd seen in documentaries. His heart started beating faster. "This isn't happening," David whispered, slowly standing up from his desk. The blue light grew stronger, concentrating in the center of his room. He should run, he knew that. But his criminology training kicked in. Observe, record, remember details. The light pulsed once, twice, and then exploded in a silent flash. David covered his eyes. When he lowered his arm, he nearly fell back into his chair. A girl stood in the middle of his room. She looked almost human. Almost. Her skin had a slight silvery sheen, and her hair seemed to float as if she was underwater. She wore what looked like a jumpsuit made of material that shifted colors like oil on water. Their eyes met. Hers were deep purple with no whites, just like gemstones catching light. She looked as surprised to see him as he was to see her. "Please," she said, but her voice sounded strange, like multiple voices speaking at once. "Help." David took a step forward, his criminology training fighting with his instinct to run. The girl backed away, clearly scared. As she moved, her skin rippled, and for a moment, strange markings appeared, symbols that glowed with that same blue light. "It's okay," David said softly, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. "I won't hurt you." She seemed to understand his tone, if not his words. Her shoulders relaxed slightly, but then she jerked her head toward the window, like she'd heard something David couldn't. The markings on her skin flared brighter. A sound came from outside, a low hum that made David's teeth vibrate. The girl's eyes widened in fear. She rushed to David, grabbing his arm. Her touch sent a tingling sensation through his body, like static electricity but warmer. She pressed something into his hand, a small device that looked like a crystal. As soon as it touched his skin, he could understand her next words perfectly. "They're coming. The hunters. Please, I have nowhere else to go." David looked at his computer screen, still showing the map of disappearances, then back at the alien girl who'd literally appeared in his room. His criminology homework had just turned into something much bigger than a class assignment. "Stay," he said, surprising himself with how calm he sounded. "You can hide here." The humming outside grew louder, and the girl pressed herself against the wall beside his window, her body trembling. David quickly closed his laptop, plunging the room into darkness except for the faint glow of her skin markings. As he helped her hide, one thought kept running through his mind. He'd been studying missing persons cases all night, and now he was helping someone who wasn't even from this planet avoid becoming another statistic. His quiet life as a criminology student had just gotten a lot more complicated. David stared at his cereal bowl, trying to process everything that had happened last night. Across from him at his small kitchen table, the alien girl watched water drip from the faucet with complete fascination. He'd given her some of his clothes, a hoodie and sweatpants that were too big for her, but better than her strange jumpsuit that kept catching people's eyes through his window. "We should probably give you a name," he said, touching the crystal translator she'd given him. "At least one that humans can pronounce." She turned those purple gemstone eyes to him. "My true name would shatter your vocal cords," she said through the translator. "But in your language, it means one who dances with starlight." "How about Luna?" David suggested. "It means moon in Latin, and you came during a full moon." She smiled, and tiny lights flickered under her skin like stars. "Luna," she repeated, the word coming out musical. "Yes." Their peaceful moment shattered as Luna suddenly grabbed her stomach, face twisted in pain. She rushed to his bathroom, and David heard retching sounds. When he followed, he found her staring in horror at the toilet bowl, which was now filled with what looked like glowing blue liquid. "That's different," David said weakly. "Your atmosphere," Luna explained, wiping her mouth. "My body is adjusting. But there's something else." She looked worried, but didn't finish her thought. David's phone buzzed. A news alert. Strange blue lights reported over city. Weather service baffled. Below was a grainy video showing exactly what he'd seen in his room last night. "Luna, there are more of you, aren't there?" She sat on his bathroom floor, hugging her knees. "We're refugees," she admitted. "Our world, it's gone. The hunters destroyed it. They're a species that feeds on civilization's fear. They push worlds into panic, feed on the terror, then move on to the next planet." David's criminology training kicked in. The missing persons cases, were they other refugees? Safe houses, Luna nodded. "But the hunters found them. They're getting better at tracking us." She stood up shakily. "I should leave. I'm putting you in danger." David caught her arm. Her skin felt warm, almost vibrating under his touch. "My professor always says patterns tell a story. The disappearances form a circle, right? What if it's not random? What if it's protection?" Luna's eyes widened. "A shield matrix." "Of course. Ancient refugee protocol. Create a geometric pattern of safe houses to generate a cloaking field." She grabbed the crystal translator, pressing different facets. It projected a holographic map identical to the one David had made for his homework, but with glowing lines connecting the points. A knock at the door made them both freeze. "Mr. Chen," a familiar voice called. "It's Professor Martinez. I noticed some interesting patterns in your homework submission. I'd like to discuss them." Luna's markings flared in panic. "Hunter," she whispered. "They can look like anyone." David's mind raced. His professor had given him those specific cases to study. Had she known? Was she trying to find refugees, or help them? The crystal translator suddenly pulsed with red light. Luna grabbed David's shirt, pulling him close. "Your planet's in more danger than you know," she whispered. "The hunters aren't just feeding here. They're planning to breed." Another knock, more insistent. "Mr. Chen, are you home?" Luna pressed her hand against David's chest, and he felt a strange tingling sensation. "I've given you a fraction of my ability to sense them," she said. "You'll need it." When David looked down, faint markings like Luna's had appeared on his skin, glowing softly before fading away. The knowledge hit him like a wave. His criminology homework hadn't just led him to an alien refugee. It had dragged him into an interstellar war. And now he could feel it. Behind his door, the thing pretending to be Professor Martinez wasn't human at all. Luna's skin shimmered as she grabbed his hand. "Back window," she whispered. "Run." They escaped just as David's front door burst open, the wood splintering with inhuman force. From his neighbor's garden, where they hid, David watched through his apartment window as a figure that looked exactly like his professor moved through his rooms, her shadow somehow all wrong, stretching and twisting in ways shadows shouldn't. "Welcome to the Resistance," Luna whispered, still holding his hand. "Hope you're good at more than just homework." The abandoned subway station wasn't exactly where David imagined he'd be spending his Friday night. Luna's markings provided the only light, casting strange shadows on the graffiti-covered walls. They'd been hiding here for 6 hours after escaping his apartment. "Your heart rate is erratic," Luna said, touching his chest. Her fingers left trails of light on his shirt. "The partial blonde I gave you, it's affecting you faster than I expected." David looked at his hands. The alien markings would appear and fade randomly now, like a glitching computer screen. Sometimes he could see things, emotions floating around people like colorful mist. "Is this permanent?" "Nothing is permanent," Luna said cryptically. Her translator crystal suddenly buzzed. "More refugees coming." 3 of them. The air shimmered, and 3 figures materialized. David gasped. They looked almost human, except their skin was transparent, showing swirling galaxies underneath. One stepped forward, obviously their leader. "I am Star Eater of Worlds," he said through his own translator. "But you can call me Atlas. We've been tracking your energy signature, Luna, who dances with starlight. You've done something forbidden. You've bonded with a human." Luna stood protectively in front of David. "The old rules don't apply anymore. The hunters are different here. They're not just feeding. They're nesting. They're using human universities to find the brightest minds and replace them. That's why they took my professor's form," David realized. "They're not just hiding. They're infiltrating places of learning." Atlas's galaxy skin swirled faster. Impossible. They've never shown that level of strategy before. A distant screech echoed through the subway tunnels. David felt his new senses tingle. Something's coming. Multiple somethings. Luna grabbed the crystal translator, pressing it into a crack in the wall. A holographic map appeared, showing red dots moving through the tunnel system. "They're hurting us, using the subway network like a web." "How did they find us?" Atlas demanded. David's criminology training clicked in. "It's not about finding us. It's about prediction. In criminal behavior analysis, we study pattern recognition. The hunters aren't tracking us. They're tracking where we would logically go." Luna's eyes widened. "Of course, they're not just mimicking human forms. They're using human knowledge against us." A horrible screech filled the station. In the tunnel entrance, shadows moved wrongly, bending in impossible angles. David's enhanced senses showed him their true forms, creatures made of void and hunger, wearing human shapes like ill-fitting clothes. But something else caught his eye. "The third rail," he whispered. "Luna, your people, can you conduct energy?" "We're literally made of starlight," she said. "Atlas," David called out. "Your people with the galaxy skin, can you create gravity wells?" Atlas nodded slowly, understanding dawning. "A quantum slingshot." "Luna, channel energy from the third rail." "Atlas, create a gravity sink above the hunters. If we can't fight them directly, we can tear them apart with physics." Luna finished. What happened next was like a deadly dance. Luna's markings flared as she drew power from the subway's electrical system. Atlas and his people created a swirling vortex of gravitational force above the approaching hunters. The creatures screeched as they were caught between raw electrical power and crushing gravity. For a moment, their human disguises melted away, revealing their true forms, crystalline structures that pulsed with stolen fear. Then, with a sound like shattering glass, they broke apart. But victory was short-lived. Luna collapsed, her markings flickering weakly. "The bond," she gasped. "Something's wrong." David caught her as she fell. Her skin was burning hot, and her purple eyes were clouding over with blue. Atlas rushed over, waving some kind of scanning device. His galaxy skin paled to a misty white. "By the dying stars, she's not just bonded with you. She's..." A hologram appeared from his scanner. showing two heartbeats intertwined. One human, one definitely not. And between them, a third rhythm, beating in impossible patterns. Pregnant, Atlas whispered. The first human stellar hybrid in existence. David felt the world spin. Through his enhanced senses, he could now see a tiny constellation of lights glowing in Luna's abdomen. A new universe beginning. Luna grabbed his hand weakly. Now you know why they want me so badly. Our child. It will be something entirely new. Neither human nor stellar. And the hunters. They don't just want to feed on fear anymore. David finished, horror dawning. They want to evolve. They want our baby. The crystal translator blinked with urgent red light. More hunters were coming. Atlas helped Luna up. You've created something impossible, he said. And now we all have to protect it. David looked at Luna, at the faint glow where their impossible child was growing, then at the dark tunnels surrounding them. His criminology homework had led him to an alien refugee, pulled him into an interstellar war, and now he was going to be a father to a child that could reshape the universe. Through the bond, he felt Luna's determination mix with his own. They had to survive. Not just for them, but for a future neither humans nor stellar refugees had ever imagined possible. The abandoned planetarium seemed like the safest place to hide. Atlas' people had transformed the dome's ceiling into a makeshift stellar nursery, projecting healing constellations that made Luna's skin glow brighter. But something was wrong. The baby is growing too fast, Atlas said, his galaxy skin churning with worried nebulas. A normal stellar pregnancy takes 3 years. At this rate, 3 weeks, Luna whispered, her hands pressed against her now visible bump that pulsed with swirling lights. The human DNA is accelerating everything. David paced beneath the artificial stars, the markings Luna had given him flaring with anxiety. Through their bond, he could feel their child's consciousness already forming, like a new star being born in his mind. There's more, Luna said suddenly, grabbing David's hand. Look. The moment he touched her stomach, his enhanced senses exploded with information. The baby wasn't just growing. It was changing both of them. Luna's stellar energy was becoming more earthbound, more solid, while David's human DNA was reaching for the stars. You're both evolving, Atlas observed, his scanner whirring. The child is rewriting your genetic codes, creating a perfect bridge between species. A crash from above made them all freeze. Through the glass dome, they saw them, hunters crawling across the planetarium roof like liquid shadows. But they looked different now. Wrong. They're changing too, David realized, his criminology-trained mind racing. Every time we fight them, they adapt. Learn. The ones we fought in the subway were crystalline, Luna finished, because they were trying to mimic my people. But now, the glass dome shattered. The hunters that poured in were no longer trying to look human. Their bodies were a horrible fusion of stellar energy and earthly matter. Teeth made of starlight, claws of solid darkness. They're not just hunting anymore, Atlas said in horror. They're trying to become like your child. A hybrid, but they're doing it wrong. One of the hunters lurched forward, its body glitching between forms like a broken hologram. David's enhanced senses showed him the truth. They were tearing themselves apart trying to evolve too quickly. Luna suddenly screamed, her body arching as waves of light pulsed from her skin. The baby was reacting to the hunter's presence. Through their bond, David felt it. Their child was reaching out, trying to communicate. And in that moment, everything changed. The closest hunter froze, its mutated form shuddering. Through his enhanced senses, David saw impossible images, the hunter's true memories. Their species hadn't always been predators. They'd been scholars once, searching the universe for knowledge. But something had corrupted them, turned their hunger for understanding into a literal hunger for fear. The baby, Luna gasped. It's showing them what they used to be. David acted on instinct. He placed one hand on Luna's stomach and reached the other toward the nearest hunter. The markings Luna had given him flared like supernovas. "Remember," he commanded. A pulse of pure light erupted from where their child grew, channeled through both parents. It hit the hunters like a wave of truth. For a moment, their twisted forms wavered, showing glimpses of their original selves, beings of pure light and curiosity. But the corruption ran too deep. With screeches of rage and despair, the hunters fled, their bodies leaving trails of broken starlight. "That won't stop them for long," Atlas warned. "If anything, you've just shown them exactly what they want to become." Luna tried to stand but stumbled. Where her feet touched the ground, small flowers made of light bloomed in the concrete. "The pregnancy is affecting reality itself," Atlas said. "We need to get you somewhere safe. Somewhere they can't track stellar energy." David looked at his hands, now permanently marked with shifting constellations. An idea formed. "Not somewhere they can't track stellar energy," he said. "Somewhere with too much of it. Luna, remember my homework. The pattern of disappearances." Luna's eyes widened. "The shield matrix. The safe houses form a circle," David explained to Atlas. "But we've been thinking about it wrong. It's not just a protection pattern. It's a summoning circle. And the center point is your university's particle physics lab," Luna realized, "where they're literally making new stars in their accelerator." Atlas's galaxy skin swirled with understanding. The perfect camouflage. But also, the perfect birthplace for a child of stars and Earth, David finished. Luna grabbed both their hands, her eyes glowing with newfound purpose. The hunters wanted evolution. Let's show them what real evolution looks like. In her stomach, their child pulsed with starlight, already understanding its role in changing 3 species forever. Through their bond, David felt its determination. The real question wasn't whether they'd survive this. The question was whether the universe was ready for what their family would become. The university's particle physics lab hummed with energy that made David's new markings tingle. They'd managed to enter through the maintenance tunnels, guided by his old student ID and Luna's ability to short out security cameras. Atlas and his people stood guard outside, their galaxy skin perfectly camouflaging them against the night sky. "The particle accelerator is perfect," Luna said, her pregnant belly now glowing so bright it showed through her clothes. "It's already making miniature stars. The energy signature will mask." She stopped, doubling over in pain. Where her tears fell, they turned into tiny diamonds of pure stellar energy. "Luna," David caught her, and the moment they touched, their bond showed him everything. The baby wasn't just growing, it was awakening. Its consciousness reached out like tendrils of starlight, touching everything around them. Through its eyes, David saw the truth of their universe. Reality wasn't solid. It was a dance of possibilities, and their child could see all of them. "David," Luna whispered, "the baby is showing me, showing us. We were meant to find each other. The hunters didn't chase me to your room by accident." The particle accelerator's hum grew louder. Computer screens around them flickered to life, displaying impossible equations, mathematical proofs of destiny written by an unborn mind. "Your criminology homework," Luna continued. "Those missing persons cases, they weren't random refugees. They were my ancestors. My people have been preparing Earth for centuries, seeding it with stellar DNA, waiting for us," David finished, understanding dawning. "For this child." A slow clap echoed through the lab. They spun around to see Professor Martinez stepping out of the shadows. But she wasn't alone. Behind her were dozens of hunters, their forms now a terrifying blend of human, stellar, and something else, something ancient. "Such a touching revelation," the professor said, her form flickering to show the hunter beneath. "Did you really think we didn't know? We've been guiding this genetic experiment for millennia." The truth hit David like a supernova. You let Luna's people come to Earth. You wanted them to mix with humans. "Of course," the hunter laughed. "We've been trapped in these limited forms for eons, unable to evolve. But your child, her eyes fixed on Luna's glowing belly, your child is the key to our transcendence. Luna's markings flared with protective anger. You're wrong. The baby showed us your true past. You were scholars once, not predators. We were weak once. Professor Martinez snarled, her human form cracking to reveal crystalline darkness beneath. Knowledge without power is nothing. Your child will give us both. The other hunters began to move forward, but suddenly stopped. The air itself seemed to vibrate. Luna gasped, placing her hands on her stomach. The baby, she whispered. It's not just seeing possibilities anymore. It's choosing them. Reality rippled. The particle accelerator's hum became a song. And in Luna's belly, their child began to rewrite the laws of physics. Quantum equations appeared in the air like glowing constellations, showing what the baby was doing. It wasn't just combining human and stellar DNA. It was reaching through time, through dimensions, pulling at the very fabric of evolution itself. No, Professor Martinez screamed, realizing too late what was happening. You can't. But they weren't doing anything. Their child was. Through their bond, David and Luna felt its purpose. The baby wasn't creating something new. It was remembering something ancient, before the hunters were corrupted, before stellar beings fled their worlds, before humans looked up at the stars in fear. It was remembering when all species were one. The particle accelerator glowed like a newborn sun. The baby's consciousness expanded, touching every hunter in the room. And in that touch was neither violence nor redemption. Only truth. Professor Martinez fell to her knees, her hunter form melting away to reveal something else, her original self, a being of pure knowledge and wonder. Around her, the other hunters underwent the same transformation, their corrupted forms burning away in the light of remembrance. What are we? The being that had been Professor Martinez whispered. Luna smiled, tears of starlight falling from her eyes. You're what you were always meant to be. The baby didn't just see other timelines, it saw the original timeline. When your people were the guardians of universal knowledge before the corruption. It's not changing you. It's reminding you, David finished. The particle accelerator pulsed one final time, and every hunter in the room transformed fully, becoming beings of pure light and wisdom once again. Their ancient purpose restored, but they all knew this wasn't the end. This was just the beginning. Because in Luna's belly, their child continued to grow, carrying within it the power to not just bridge species, but to heal the broken parts of the universe itself. And somewhere in the quantum equations still floating in the air, a new homework assignment was writing itself, one that would take not just David's lifetime, but generations to complete. The true study of universal justice was about to begin. The university campus had become a battlefield of light. The restored ancient beings, no longer hunters but now calling themselves the archivists, stood with David and Luna as more corrupted hunters arrived. These new ones hadn't been touched by the baby's revelation yet, and they were angry. Luna floated a few inches off the ground now, unable to control her growing powers. The baby's consciousness was expanding beyond the physical world, turning the campus into a quantum playground where reality obeyed new rules. They're coming, David said, his markings blazing. Through his enhanced senses, he could see them, hundreds of corrupted hunters, crawling through different dimensions to reach them. But something's wrong. They're desperate. Professor Martinez, now in her true archivist form of living light, raised her hands. Streams of ancient knowledge flowed from her like ribbons of golden text. Of course they're desperate. Your child isn't just changing individuals, it's rewriting the corrupted timeline itself. Every hunter that transforms weakens their entire species' corruption across time and space. The first wave of corrupted hunters burst through reality's walls. But they weren't just attacking, they were trying to reach Luna's belly, to touch the source of transformation. Some seemed to want healing, others wanted to stop it, and many appeared torn between the two desires. The baby, Luna gasped suddenly. It's showing me something new. The corruption, it wasn't random. It was a choice, a wrong choice made at the dawn of time, but still a choice. David felt it through their bond, a vision of ancient history, the original archivists, faced with a decision, to remain guardians of knowledge or to become consumers of experience. Some chose to feed on fear, becoming the first hunters. Others fled, becoming Luna's stellar people. A few remained hidden on Earth, seeding the planet with stellar DNA, waiting for this moment. They're not really attacking, David realized, his criminology training clicking with cosmic insight. This is mass rehabilitation. Every corrupted hunter is fighting their own original choice. The scene around them became chaos. Corrupted hunters would charge forward, only to collide with waves of truth emanating from Luna's belly. Some transformed instantly into archivists. Others fought the change, their forms twisting between corruption and redemption. Atlas and his galaxy-skinned people created gravity wells, trapping the most violent ones. The transformed archivists projected ancient knowledge, helping guide their corrupted brothers back to truth. And through it all, the baby's consciousness expanded, turning the campus into a nexus of transformation. But not all wanted to change. A massive hunter, ancient and powerful, tore through the barriers of space. Unlike the others, its corruption was voluntary, embraced over eons. It had been the first to choose fear over knowledge, and it would not surrender that choice. The child must not complete its work. It roared in a voice that shattered windows and cracked reality itself. Luna screamed as the monster tried to reach into her womb, not to touch the baby, but to corrupt it. David felt their bond burning as he tried to reach her, but quantum waves of battle kept them apart. Then something impossible happened. The baby kicked. That simple, human movement combined with stellar power created a shockwave of pure choice. Every being on the battlefield, corrupted hunter, transformed archivist, stellar refugee, and human, felt their original choices laid bare. Not just their choices, but the choices of their ancestors, their species, their reality. And they were all given a new choice. The massive hunter leader froze, its corrupted form trembling as it faced its original decision again. Around it, reality flickered between what was and what could have been, and what could still be. Free will, it growled. You can't force change. Luna floated forward, her belly glowing with impossible light. No one's forcing anything. My baby is just showing you all your choices again. The real crime was when corruption took your choices away. The quantum mathematics of destiny swirled around them, but now with a new variable. Freedom. The baby wasn't rewriting history. It was restoring the possibility of choice to beings who'd lost it eons ago. David stepped forward, taking Luna's hand. Where they touched, their combined humanity and stellar nature created a perfect balance. In criminology, we learned that rehabilitation only works when the person chooses it. You can't force redemption. You can only offer the chance. The hunter leader roared one final time. But this roar was different. It was the sound of a being remembering it had the right to choose. Its corruption began to fade, not burned away by force, but surrendered by choice. Around it, the remaining hunters faced their own decisions. Many chose to transform back into archivists. Some chose to remain as they were, but without corruption. A new kind of hunter dedicated to pursuing knowledge through experience rather than fear. As the battle ended, Luna turned to David with tears of starlight in her eyes. The baby, it's time, but not just for birth. For a universal choice, David finished, understanding through their bond. Their child was about to enter a world where every being, human, stellar, hunter, or archivist, had regained the power of choice, and that would make the universe more dangerous, more beautiful, and more free than ever before. The final part of their journey was about to begin. The particle physics lab had transformed into something beyond human understanding. As Luna went into labor, reality itself seemed to contract and expand with each of her contractions. The restored archivists formed a circle around her, their bodies of pure light pulsing in harmony with the universe's heartbeat. "The child comes," Professor Martinez announced, her archivist form shimmering with ancient wisdom, "not just into our world, but into all possible worlds." David held Luna's hand, their combined markings creating constellations that danced across the lab's walls. Through their bond, he felt everything. The pain, the joy, the cosmic significance of this moment. The baby wasn't just being born. It was awakening across multiple dimensions simultaneously. "Something's happening to the timeline," Atlas warned, his galaxy skin shifting rapidly through stellar formations. "The birth is creating options." Reality split into visible layers around them. In one, they saw Earth's past, the first archivists seeding stellar DNA into human ancestors. In another, they witnessed Luna's people's exodus across the stars. And in yet another, they watched the Hunter's original choice to embrace corruption. All these timelines were converging on this single point of birth. Luna screamed, and her cry echoed through dimensions. The particle accelerator spun faster, its artificial stars resonating with the power of creation itself. David felt the baby's consciousness touch his mind one final time. But now it wasn't just their child. It was a nexus of all possible choices, all potential futures. "Push," David whispered, pouring his strength into their bond. "Push not just with your body, but with all of reality." Luna bore down, and the universe held its breath. The child came into the world with neither a cry nor a whimper, but with a quantum equation that wrote itself in stars across the sky. It had Luna's stellar markings and David's human eyes, but it was something more, a bridge not just between species, but between choices. "The Nexus child," Professor Martinez breathed, her archivist knowledge recognizing what they'd created, a being of pure possibility. The baby opened its eyes, and every electronic device in the lab displayed the same message in all known languages. All choices are valid. All paths are open. The universe is free. Then something unprecedented happened. The transformed hunters who had chosen to remain hunters, but without corruption, stepped forward. Their leader, the ancient one who had made the first choice eons ago, spoke. "We understand now," it said, its voice no longer terrible, but filled with wisdom. "Knowledge isn't just meant to be preserved or consumed. It's meant to grow, to change, to choose." Luna cradled their child, whose skin shifted between human flesh and stellar light with each heartbeat. "What do we name such a being?" she wondered. David looked at his criminology textbooks scattered on a nearby desk, then at the quantum equation still swirling in the air, and finally at their child, a living bridge between justice and knowledge, choice and destiny. "Libra," he said, "after the scales of justice, because our child doesn't just balance species, it balances choices themselves." The baby, Libra, cooed, and in that simple sound, new possibilities bloomed across reality. The archivists saw paths of pure knowledge. The reformed hunters glimpsed ways to pursue understanding through experience rather than fear. Luna's stellar people sensed new worlds to explore. And humanity. Through the quantum windows around them, David watched as people across Earth looked up at the sky with new awareness. The stellar DNA hidden in their genes for generations was awakening, not to change them, but to show them they'd always been part of something greater. Professor Martinez stepped forward, her archivist form solidifying into something between human and light. "Your homework assignment led you to solve the greatest cold case in universal history, the loss of choice itself. Now, a new assignment begins." "What's that?" David asked, touching his child's shifting skin. "Teaching all species how to use their freedom wisely," Luna answered, starlight tears falling from her eyes. "Starting with our own family." Lidra reached up with tiny fingers that left trails of quantum probability in the air. Where the baby touched, reality didn't just change. It expanded to include more possibilities, more choices, more chances for all beings to write their own stories. The particle accelerator powered down. Its work complete. But across campus, students were already looking at their quantum physics and criminology textbooks with new eyes. Earth would never be just Earth again. It had become what it was always meant to be, a nursery for possibility itself. David looked at his family, his stellar wife, his reality-shaping child, and the diverse beings around them who had chosen to become part of their story. His criminology homework had led him to solve more than just missing persons cases. It had helped heal the universe's oldest wound, the loss of true choice. And as Lydra drifted off to sleep in Luna's arms, tiny galaxies swirling beneath its eyelids, they all understood. This wasn't an ending. This was the first choice of an entirely new reality. One where justice meant more than right and wrong, where knowledge meant more than power, and where love could literally transform the universe. All because of a late-night criminology assignment that had asked the right questions about missing stars in human form.